In our age of advanced technology.
And I'm doing great today, Dr. Ed. What's up?
People are naturally attracted to those who are authentic.
I always knew I would do something big. I knew I was built to do something special.
It led over time to a pretty dark place.
As soon as my feet hit the ground in the morning, I've made a choice not to stop unless I'm asleep.
You know, I'm a 22-year overnight success.
How do I find the freaking jack to get to the next level?
All right, laptop lifestyle listeners, we have a tremendous guest today, and that is Luis Congdon. Luis, how are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for having me here.
The third take is always the best one.
That's right. Right before the show, we were talking about how to say my name. I have a unique name. You know, it's a Spanish first and English, and I don't even know where my last name comes from, but it's kind of Germanic or something. So totally understandable. I wonder how teachers ever got it right.
But you know what I mean? It's a perfect lesson too, because I was saying, you know, because you and I are both professional, like we've been doing this a lot, you know, podcasting, and I have a checklist, but I skipped the checklist today because I'm like, we don't need to do that. And of course I messed it up. So let's get back on track here. So what I would like you to do is really just start to share a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about what you're currently doing, like your business and how you help online entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs. And then I want to go into your story.
That sounds great. You know, right now I'm helping entrepreneurs get their message out in a bigger way. You know, anyone who, no matter where you're at in your business as an entrepreneur, I really feel that I can help you get your message out in some bigger way. And we do that in a multitude of ways. You know, so my partner, she builds funnel websites and builds the emails and the squeeze pages. What I do on my end, and she does way more stuff. I could brag about her for hours, but that's briefly what she does. What I do is I help people with podcasting, and I help people with Facebook organic methods. So how can you generate a following organically through Facebook without buying ads?
And this is actually probably the first. Okay, so let's step back. So I've been following you for a while, and this is a great lesson for people who are listening right now, is I followed you through Facebook for a while before I actually came on board with one of your programs, which I just did recently. And it's amazing content, by the way. And, you know, just even a few of the tips that I've implemented have paid off already. But that's one of the things that you teach actually in your, like being, getting unpaid traffic, you could say, on Facebook, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Traffic that pays you, that you secured freely. Yeah. Without paying any kind of money, you're getting traffic. And that's the thing, is a lot of people don't understand that social media and all these different multitude of free platforms are places where you can make money. I know that you get this. I've seen you, inside of Facebook say, hey, I'm running a webinar. I'm doing this and that. And you've garnered some incredible levels of interest now for other people that are watching, people like yourself or me, and they're asking, how's that happening? I have a whole course. You're in it, and I'm having a blast. I've had a blast teaching it. Now our business is growing. Now we're creating a kind of a one-stop shop for podcasters. So a whole editing service, a whole transcription service. So we're really branching out because, you know, one of the things that Dan Kennedy says is that if you're going to run a business and you want to expand, then you want to start thinking about all the other services that your potential and new clients will need once they buy that first thing from you.
And that's where you started, was podcasting. I mean, teaching like other people how to create podcasts. But let's even back up a little bit further from that. Tell us your story. I mean, like you went right from sleeping on a couch to actually, you know, getting on interviews with incredibly successful people and even some celebrities.
Yeah, you know, I've been homeless twice in my life now, and I think that, you know, so my first breath into the world was high levels of poverty. You know, I was born in a third world country. My mother was a drug addicted, cocaine addict, would leave the house all day and then come home and do drugs. And that was essentially my first few years of life, first 5-6 years of life. Then I was homeless as a child after that for the next few years. Then I was adopted. And so I think that kind of created this feeling, this really deep kind of resin that it was like, I don't deserve to have enough, you know? And so as an adult, I became homeless again. And I really look at that, being homeless and sleeping on my friend's couch, sleeping in a park, sleeping in my car, those experiences, there was a lot of people that could help me, but it was like somehow the help that I needed was to go through that experience, kind of like I call it kind of this fire baptism, so I got to be burned inside my own suffering essentially. And during that time, I really consistently spent a lot of time thinking about, abundance mindsets and trying to visualize and trying to create something that I wanted. And I didn't know what that was. That was the idea itself excited me, but I had no idea how to actually make that kind of new lifestyle happen where I could travel. I could have people send me $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 checks. I could hop on phone calls with people like yourself and, a wide variety of people that are just really inspiring and living a very different lifestyle than I was at that time. And podcasting came as a recommendation by a total stranger. And what I did is I went home and I was like, I want this guy who's been on Oprah 19 times. That's got to be my first guest. And I went through, basically, I started going through Oprah's list and I was like, I want that person, that person, that person. And I started going through other lists of people that have been in other famous platforms, maybe Dr. Phil or other channels or New York Times bestsellers. And I wrote all these lists and these people actually started responding to me after a while. And I remember the first time I had to do a podcast interview, I had to wake up from my friend's couch, like catch a bus over to the university because I didn't have money to get over there, borrow a friend's code so I could get on the internet and somehow sneak into a quiet room and close the door, one of those study rooms, even though I wasn't a student there. And I did one of my first interviews was with the guy who'd been on Oprah 19 times. And that really shifted my life because at the end of that interview with Dr. Harville Hendricks, he said, why don't you come out to New York and I'll pay for you to come to my event and I'll take care of your lodging, your food, everything, and come in and hang out with me. And after that, I was like, yes, this podcasting thing, it's going to work.
What was the timeline before you launched your podcast to where you started seeing results? What was the timeline there?
I saw results right away. So it actually took me 2 years to actually release the podcast and actually send it out to the world. There's something for me anyways, it was incredibly intimidating to think I just spent an hour with the guy who's been on Oprah 19 times. Now he's invited me to come out to New York and I get out there and I hang out with him and go to his class and meet him, take pictures. And then he invites me to come down to Texas to help co-facilitate a class to translate some of it in Spanish and work with Spanish couples because I'm bilingual. And so those results were immediate. But for me to send it out to the world, I was incredibly intimidated thinking, well, this guy's been on Oprah. He's got a beautiful website. I know nothing about the online media world. So I just kind of kept hanging on to these interviews. And then what started to happen, so it took 2 years, but I wasn't thinking of podcasting as a business. At the time, I was the relationship coach and I was not online. So the podcast interviews were just a way for me to meet influencers. So I started posting inside of Facebook, and it's funny when we look back, we can see why now I would have a class called Profit from Facebook without spending a penny because I didn't have a penny to spend. So I started sharing on Facebook and it was my hope that other people would start responding and saying, well, how did you do that? Or, hey, can you help me do that? And I'm a real giving person. So people did start responding and people did start asking, right? I was giving away my excitement by sharing it. And I always encourage people to do that. Give away your excitement. It's kind of like if you're religious, you should share God with people. Well, if you're an entrepreneur, you're doing something awesome in your life, share it with people. And that's what I did. And soon a guy approached me and said, hey, I will pay you 10 grand to take over my podcast and do everything that you're doing for yourself. My podcast wasn't even live. But I had all the interviews. I had all the proof that I'd been doing this. And I had pictures with all these people I'd interviewed. They started asking me to their events or masterminds and giving me away their programs or asking me for my help with different things. And I would just say yes. And eventually someone offered to pay me. And that's when I went, whoa, this online business thing could really work.
I hope, I wish people, maybe I should have turned on the video for this interview because the listeners right now, the laptop lifestyle listeners that are soaking this in, Luis. I got to tell you, you can see in my background, I'm in my basement. The sheets are pulled off on the guest room here. I got my rower on the floor. I'm looking in. It's either your office or some part of your home, and you can do this. What an incredible time we're in, where someone like yourself in 2 years, 3 years can launch an incredible business online. Someone like myself can reinvent themselves at 46 and create a business for themselves. what an exciting time. And I part of the purpose, and I love what you're talking about, is part of the purpose of podcasting is really about that networking, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely about the networking. One of the guys that I know and really like, he says it's not just who you know, it's who knows you. Mm-hmm. And so if people know who you are, then you can make sales, right? And you can bring people into your life. Those are, creating leads. But if you don't have a network and you're kind of stuffed away in this little corner, the internet offers you an opportunity to open that whole world up. Because when I was sleeping on my friend's couch and in my car, I was in a little corner of the world, and it's called, I don't have money, I don't have a website, I don't understand things, but I opened up that world in a very low cost way. Essentially, I had to do it for free, right? I had to use Facebook as my platform. I had to tell people about my business, and everything that I was doing and hoping to build, I used Facebook in a purely free way, which actually that's with podcasting. I also started with a laptop that was free. I started with a headset that came with an old phone, and I used a $29 little extension, and I started podcasting. It is really easy to create a laptop lifestyle now.
And I mean, here's the thing too, is you can time travel these experiences by working with someone like yourself, right? For those who are listening, I should say. Or, honestly, there's something out there called YouTube, if anyone's ever heard of it. And you could pretty much learn anything. But the real value is working with people like yourself, or even with me, I specialize in working with, health professionals, but to help them time travel that experience, the ones who want to get the results really quickly. And one thing I like about your story here too is, it seems to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, but you didn't dip your toes in this. Like, this wasn't like you just wanted to see whether this was, you were all in from the start, weren't you?
When I tell my story about ending up on my friend's couch, one thing that's often kind of glossed over that I don't share is I had a job and I was fired. And I really didn't have a whole lot of extra savings. So I went and stayed with a friend. And during this time, I had an opportunity to take random jobs. And I did that here and there. I also had an opportunity to take some full-time jobs. And I turned down a lot of job opportunities because I was willing to sleep on my friend's couch and give up the comfort of having my own room and a stable paycheck and a stable home to create something else that would be much better than continuing a 9-to-5, because I'm not very good at the 9-to-5. I'm just not. I can be a great worker for about 6 to 10 months, and then I just suck. I just don't like doing it on someone else's schedule. And I want to find shortcuts, and I want to find ways. I remember when I was 24 years old, I read The 4-Hour Workweek. And first thing I did is I went into my job. It was one of the best jobs I've ever had. It was the most professional job I'd ever had at that time. And I called a meeting with my boss, not my boss, but my boss's boss. And I called a meeting with her, and she avoided it for like a month or two. And I just kind of kept being persistent. I got her in a room, and I said, hey, listen, I want to find a way so I can only show up to work like 3 or 4 hours a day. Is it possible for me to do most of my work from home? And is it possible for me to essentially hand off some of my work to other people if I find more efficient ways? She said no to all of those things. She said, we pay you to sit in the chair. And so, you've got to find a way to make work while you sit in the chair. And if you can't find work, then at least you just need to be in the chair. That's what we're paying you for. And that's the day that I pretty much knew that I was not going to be good at the 9-to-5.
Yeah. And and I think even as an entrepreneur, sometimes even as an online entrepreneur, we can almost get ourselves into that situation. And it's a great piece of advice here too, is that we don't want to turn out to be like the high paid employee, right? In even in online world. So that's always something. And so I guess really what I'm saying is having something like that you create that is automated, and maybe just, you need some maintenance so that it's bringing a steady reoccurring income into your business is always a good way to set things up, and using that strategy in the beginning. Because I see that in a lot of what you do and what you create as well, is that it gives you a lot of freedom that way, doesn't it?
Now our system has become really cool as we think about a program that we want to create. And this is the whole automation piece. And this is something for all of you listening, as you start with an idea. And I think ideas are incredibly powerful. Our desires are incredibly powerful. You know, as an entrepreneur, we have to believe in our desires and even messages that we're receiving. You know, I had this idea to create a class to teach people how to make money from Facebook. And I turned to my partner and I said, we're not going to build a funnel. We're not going to build squeeze pages. I'm doing none of that. I'm actually just going to go to Facebook. And I'm going to launch a whole program on Facebook, just the idea. And so I did that. And within the first day, I made $3,000. Wow. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. It was just an idea. It was just a few Facebook posts. And then I made some more posts and inquiries and things trickled in. But what happened is this woman who works for a very high profile marketer wrote me and she said, hey, my guy, I work for him. I'm going to buy your program, but I would also like to include you in our email and an affiliate for you. And this is 60,000 plus email list of strong buyers. We're not talking about like some sort of small thing where somebody's just bought emails. These are some of the highest quality buyers you can get. And so then, you know, now my whole class shifted from being this launch where I thought, you know, $5,000, $10,000 would be amazing, you know, and just using Facebook posts. So then we created squeeze pages and everything. And so I've taught that class. And then while I've been creating this class, I created a membership site. And every week I created the content before the class, right? And so then by the time I'm done, I essentially got paid. I think I got paid about $5,000 for this class, which I don't think is like a huge amount of money. But I think it's pretty ridiculous when I think about the fact that it was about 10, 12 hours of work total. And I didn't have anything created it, and now more sales are trickling in. You know, just the other day, just a couple days ago, I made a brand new sale. The whole course is there. I don't have anything to do with it now. The sale comes in, I get an email, and it says, hey, so-and-so has purchased. Here's their payment info. Awesome. And so then I just send them a private message just saying, hey, congratulations. And this is mostly a copy and paste email. I add maybe a sentence or two that's fresh, and it just says, hey, Dr. Ed, I'm excited that you bought this. Actually looked you up on Facebook. I see you're a chiropractor. Really cool. And then copy and paste message off, and I can go and catch my flight or do whatever I want to do. It makes for a short work day.
Yeah. I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, do you ever find that it's challenging to explain what you do? Like how you make money?
It sounds like you know exactly the answer to that, because it is, you know, working online, there's not a lot of people that understand the online business world. When I was sleeping on my friend's couch, at one point I'd wake up from my friend's couch. I would, you know, do these meditations to try to put myself in this mindset that I was like rich and that I was making $10,000 a month. For me, you know, I was a guy who'd making anywhere from 30 to 50,000 tops a year. And so the idea of 10 grand a month was ridiculous. So I'd spend a half hour zoning in, and then I'd go spend like 6-7 hours at a coffee shop trying to understand what the heck blogging was. And the blogging world was what I thought was going to take my relationship business to the next level. And people were like, dude, why are you spending 8, 9, 10 hours in a coffee shop trying to understand blogging when you could go get a job and make some money and get off your friend's couch? And I was like, cause if I don't do this, I'm going to be back on his couch next year. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And funny story is actually, I went out to lunch last week. I took a chiropractor, a local doctor here out to lunch, and I sat down with him, and he was like, I don't get how, you know, cause I'm closing my brick and mortar, my practice, right? He's like, I still don't get how you're doing this. Like, how do you make money? After about an hour, he still couldn't grasp it. He couldn't get it. And then I just had a couple of notifications on my phone, and I showed him how much money I had made while we were sitting there having lunch. and he goes, okay, now I'm really interested. So
it doesn't matter what you do. It looks like you're making money. I want to do it now.
And well, the illusion, right, is that it's passive, but it really, honestly, there was a lot of there was a lot of work in to get those sales or those leads or whatever it might be. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely can be the illusion of passive income in online business, but let's not fool any listeners here. It's a business, should be treated as such, and it requires work.
The learning curve is tremendous, and I think this is where your show is serving a really nice need for people, is that when we talk about the online business world, what you're going to notice is that you're going to start getting videos and pieces of content drip to you somehow through Facebook ads, your friends talking to you, people flashing you their phone of how much money they're making. And the illusion is whoa, dude, you were just sitting there doing an interview. You just made like $5,000. Or, whoa, you just woke up and there was $700 in your account. That sounds really easy. And then you're going to start getting advertisements maybe that are people are like, all you do is you create a website, a few emails, easy, bada bing, bada boom, PayPal card, click here at the bottom of my page. And I'm going to show you how simple it is. And then people start entering this world. And it's like going through this vortex where this new world opens up and it's like funnels, squeeze pages, optimization. You're like, whoa, my head. That was my experience. Is my head felt like it was going to explode for a while because all this stuff, I can't go and talk to my mom and say, hey, my funnel isn't converting what I want it to, right? Whereas, if I was having a work performance issue, I could go and talk to my mom and say I'm having an employee relationship issue or, a boss employee issue or whatever it might be that most people will understand. But when I talk about the online world or even the fact that I have to sequester myself sometimes for an hour to do a podcast interview, my family's like, what's a podcast interview?
Yeah.
And I'm like, all I know is you need to be quiet for like the next 35 minutes and then I'll explain it to you.
Well, and that's one of the litmus that I've used for finding people to come and share, like the successful people like yourself in this space, is they had to be demonstrating results and producing. There can be some people who might even be producing on the short term, that are showing those results, but are their clients showing results too? That's really what it comes down to, is what they're teaching. And that's why I love, bringing someone like yourself on and sharing. If we were to say, Luis, that, if there was one thing, like every time you get on a call with someone who's aspiring entrepreneur, if there was, you're chatting with someone online or messaging with an aspiring entrepreneur, what is it that drives you absolutely insane today about aspiring entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs?
The thing that drives me most insane is most aspiring entrepreneurs have seen some sort of clip of someone else that's doing something, and then they come to me and they want to do it and they expect a quick turnaround or they expect it to be fairly cheap. And those two things bother me. And then it's kind of all wrapped up into one, because usually the person that thinks it's going to be super easy is the person that doesn't really want to pay very much either and doesn't understand the huge investment that this is going to be. Becoming an online entrepreneur, yes, it can be done for one of the lowest costs of any business, but you're still going to have to invest time, energy, and money into it. There's no way around it. And it's not going to be a super simple, quick, bada bing, bada boom thing. There's so many stories right now of these individuals that have like crushed it, so like the other day I was reading an interview about this woman who made a 1.2 million sales launch. She launched a digital course and made over $1 million. And I'm reading this and people are getting excited, right? I've heard of her before. People follow her. But what somebody made in the comments was like, hey, this woman didn't just get here and this wasn't her first launch, even though she's making it sound like it is. Because she was like, oh, I don't know how I got here, how I understand how to make launches like this. It just kind of happens. And it's like, yes, but and you're reading it. She's like, yeah, I spent $50,000 on Facebook ads in 1 month. Who has that? 50 grand. Like she's doing something, she's already doing something pretty well. So, the biggest thing I want people to know is that this is going to be an investment, and there is going to be, it's like getting into a marriage. You think that getting married is going to be oh, wow, we're married and it's going to be simple now. Oh, I'm an online entrepreneur. Making money is going to be the easiest thing now. No, you're going to have to do some work.
Yeah. And invest too. Like, I mean, I've been running Facebook ads, had some, success with that. It's been converting well. I only run one ad really. But most of what I get, or the traffic that I see that comes to me, like in terms of business, is through organic. All right, Luis, if there was one action step that you could give the budding entrepreneur listening right now that, you could say, look, this is the one thing I would suggest you go out and you start doing today, what would that be?
The first thing my first piece of the answer to that is create free content. It's awesome, right? My highest paying clients are people that somehow knew me or knew of me. And so then when I got in business, they wanted to buy what I had. And the people that are now buying more of my stuff are the people that somehow have created trust with me. And so I would say create free content. And my little plug here, And it's not a self-serving plug. It's really a plug for you. I just happen to be able to serve the need as well. As I would say, create a podcast. So that way you can do two things that I would say you should do, because I think you should be building free content to create trust and likability, and also so people know who you are. Create a podcast. Plus, on top of that, you're also going to build an incredible network and meet a lot of cool people. So that's my plug for that.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's one of the best action steps given so far in this the Laptop Lifestyle podcast, is to definitely be giving tons of free content. And one of the easiest, fastest, largest audiences out there is going to be through podcasting. So what I like to refer to this part of the podcast interview is really just who makes it rain, I call it. So here's the situation. I'm going to put you in a room and it's full of successful, like wildly successful, self-made online entrepreneurs. And I'm going to ask you, who makes it rain then, Luis? Is it the one who has the most leads? So maybe the biggest list or whatever that might be. Is it the one who can make the most sales? So closes every deal. Or is it the one who has the best systems and automation? What would you say?
It's sales. And when I read this question, I thought, wow, what a cool question. You're kind of pitting me against some of the things that are all interconnected and all incredibly important and relevant and tied together. But when I really break it up, I think sales is the most important. And the reason why sales is the most important is, here's the deal. I know tons of people. I know a lot of people that have a lot of leads. They have a lot of Facebook fans, and they have, followers in all these different places. And they even have people asking them to buy stuff from them, but they don't know how to close the deal. They don't know how to make the sale. And honestly, I think sales is everything. I mean, even getting on this show, for me was a form of sales. I sold myself online, and then you came and approached me and said, hey, we'd love to have you on the show because you're really doing something that could impact people. But the whole time I've been doing sales, whether or not I sold you, I've still been doing sales.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, and that's really what it's all about. I mean, I kind of come back to there's some podcasters even who have like 1 million downloads a month, yet they don't make a penny off their podcast, do they?
I know a lot of podcasters that are doing insane numbers. Like, they're easily trumping me. And I know podcasters who have had the same guests as me, and they have a huge audience. And I can tell you that, even though they do sales and I do sales, I made more money than they did from a very small podcast. And I know people that just, they even have products and programs. And the only problem, in fact, I took a guy who had a product and a program and matched him up with a marketer / sales guy, and they made over $50,000 in a month. And it was because the guy who created the program didn't know how to sell it.
Cool. Very awesome. And so, I mean, that's a perfect segue into, look, how can listeners learn more about what you do, how you can, help them maybe even engage better in an organic fashion on Facebook?
Definitely. I know that you're going to have all the show notes. So, definitely just send people to your website where they can check out all the goodies that I have. I have a free mini training course for you guys. You guys can check it out, and it'll teach you how to start profiting from Facebook today. If you want to learn more about me and what I'm up to, you can go over to thrivinglaunch.com, and I'll see you over there. And feel free to write me a message or look out for me in social media. But thrivinglaunch.com has the links for everything that you need about me.
Beautiful. So yeah, listeners, head over to the laptoplifestylepodcast.com, and you can actually find a webpage dedicated to our discussion with Luis today. And we'll have all the clickable links to all the resources that he's provided, including actually, if you were listening on your mobile, as 60% of people are right now, you go ahead and actually just expand open those notes, and all the clickable links will be right there. So Luis, just before we kind of wrap things up, I have one final question for you before I let you go. And that is, and I'm going to ask this in two ways. One way is essentially when was the moment that you felt like you actually made it online? And or I could maybe as an alternative, is when do you feel like you will have actually made it in online business?
I definitely feel like I've made it, and I'm here to stay. And because goals keep moving kind of in front of me, then there's this sense of like, oh, I made it to that goal, but now I'm trying to make it to the next. So I haven't really made it. And I think that that's going to kind of continue for me. I don't know at what point when I'll go, okay, like I don't have to keep thinking, the next thing or whatever. But the month that I made a little over $30,000 in take home money for myself was the month that I really went, wow, I really made it. Like I just made in 1 month darn near what I used to make in a year.
Yeah, I mean, and that's incredible, isn't it? That to think that some people would maybe not make that same income, right, in a year in a job, right? So I got to tell you, I really enjoyed speaking to you today. You've inspired me, take my business even to a next level, but also, again, just giving back and helping the aspiring, budding online entrepreneur. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It's been a real pleasure to be here with all of you, and I'll see you soon.
Hey, I want to thank you for listening today. And if you're new to the podcast, head over to thelaptoplifestylepodcast.com and hear more from 6, 7, and 8-figure online entrepreneurs. Even better, head over to iTunes, give us a rating and review, and that will help us help more aspiring online entrepreneurs. Appreciate you and see you on the next Laptop Lifestyle podcast.